What's going on, everybody? It is your main man, Big Ive, the talk of the town, and I'm here with this guy. So when we come back, we're going to talk about what this guy does in that big city in Wilmington. Cool?
Love it.
What's going on, everybody? It is your main man, Big Eye, the talk of the town, and I'm here with Dan. Everyone calls him Black Dan. Is it Black Dan?
Yeah, Lieutenant Dan, Black Jew Dan, whatever. Just go with it.
Just go with it. What's up, man?
I'm good. How are you?
Yo, I'm good.
Good-looking guy.
Man, you are a good-looking guy, bro. I'm happy to have you here, man.
Yeah, well, look, I didn't want to be the only black guy at the show.
At the show. How you been, though, man? What's going on? There's a lot been going on, bro.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot going on, and with you too.
Yeah. That we could be here all night telling these damn stories.
I know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a lot. I think retirement in of itself is, it's been an adventure all by itself. So
Right.
I'm working my way through it, and
You're kind of young. You're young. You're real young
yeah.
to be retiring, bro.
Look, I did almost 21 years.
Okay.
In the police department. So, for me, I probably would have stayed another 41 years.
Okay.
But life had other plans for me. So
Right.
I'm sort of going with the flow these days.
Going with the flow.
Yeah.
Now, Dan, first of all, let me check out there. Everyone, let me know how the sound is. We just want to make sure we got the sound cool and sure you know the questions I'm going to ask, right? What kind of whip does he drive? So, okay. Josh is always on. That is my homie. And Josh, thanks for your support. Josh wants to know, he's a car enthusiast, right?
Okay.
He loves cars. So he wants to know, what type of whip do you have?
Oh, God, this is so embarrassing. This is such a setup in advance.
No.
What's his name?
Joshua.
Joshua. I'm going to really disappoint you. I'd love to say I got, some really cool car, but the reality is I have a hand-me-down from my mom. It's a gold Lexus.
There's nothing wrong about that, bro. There's nothing wrong. It's a beautiful car.
All right, look, as a Jew, I can say what I'm about to say, but it's very Jewy.
It's very Jewy.
Yeah, I feel like, I feel very whiny in it. I feel very, like, I don't know. It's, right now, the reality is I had a police car,
right?
Really, as a take-home car. So we were struggling at one point, and said, "Hey, we need another car." I got the kids are driving, so we,
right.
Mama Goose stepped up and gave us the
Goose.
gold Lexus.
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
Now I ride it. Cool.
I bet you do.
I ride it.
How do you ride
like
it?
A whip.
What
Do you mean how?
You like this?
Dude, you don't see my head. You don't even see mine. You see maybe a little shine right here. That's about it. And you hear what I'm listening to.
Yeah.
I'm rocking it. Everyone just laughs at me, though.
But you know what, though? You know what, Dan? Like, the community freaking loves you, B. They really love you, man. And that's because now you're on the force, but you're always in the community. Where did that passion, that love come from, bro? Because and the community just accepts you like bam, yo, that's Dan. He got a pass.
You know what? It's a great question. I think one of the things that I was lucky to learn, maybe I just through experiences or through the way I was raised, but for me, I understand human value, and the reason I always start with that is because it's unless you understand that we are inherently equal, right? As doesn't matter if you're homeless or jobless or I had to arrest you for some crime. Your value as a human being doesn't change, right? That's just circumstance. Our circumstances are different. It means that we came out of different mamas.
Right.
But the reality is our value will always remain the same. It's unequivocally equal. And I think where cops get it wrong, and maybe I think that I learned it sort of through this process, is that they get the badge, they get the uniform, and it actually crosses over more than just police, and they feel like in some way their value's increased, right? Maybe that they're a little bit better than.
Right.
And a lot of people would feel like, if they have a title or something, and they get it totally wrong, because their value hasn't changed at all. It's
Right.
just their circumstances change.
Right.
So I start with that because, ultimately when you go into a place, especially like West Center City,
Right.
where, these are 36 and a half square blocks of, these are the most depressed, economically depressed,
Right.
visually depressed,
Right.
socially depressed areas in the state.
Mm-hmm.
But it shows you the power of understanding human value. To number
Right.
one, I was always very respectful because this is their home, not mine.
Right.
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 I'm a guest. I want to support it, but I'm a guest there.
Right.
And I also, so when you go in there being respectful of it, instead of what cops do is they shoo everyone off
Mm-hmm.
the street or off. Well, they live there.
Right.
It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Right.
It makes no sense. And so ultimately, I approached them, and because we both came like this, because neither of us, neither the community or myself, thought we were better than each other.
Right.
We came at a human level.
Right.
And because of that, we never, for the year and a half plus I walked, and I walked every day.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, night, day.
Yeah.
We never talked about my race. We never talked about the uniform.
You're just everyone, the just people.
We were here. We were
Right.
just here.
Right.
We accepted each other at face value.
Mm-hmm.
It shows you the amazing depth that this community has, because of all people they should hate, really. What I represented was that, right? I was a white cop with a white uniform, a white shirt.
Mm-hmm.
That, what that represented for generations was the single most destructive entity for this community. We've done damage. Not that all cops are bad. It's not that kind of theme.
Mm-hmm.
The theme is that I'm going to people who have, for their grandparents, suffered under what the criminal justice, what we've done to communities like that. But yet, because I just went there and we both accepted each other, all of that was irrelevant.
Right.
It just shows you that the amount of there's so much more. It's so much richer than you think it is.
Right.
Not you. People ignore places like this because they see it at face value.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is, everything that exists in West Center City exists in my neighborhood and exists here.
And that was your area over there, just the West Center City area,
so they
right?
gave me 36 and a half square blocks, and they are. I mean, as far as crime, as far as blight, they're the worst in the state.
Mm-hmm.
And historically, it's anti-police. I've gotten into fights there. No one in the police department wants to work. It's called 16th District. They call it a shithole.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I think a part of my wanting to be a part of it, and then being a part of it like I was, is because there's a part of it I was ashamed, the fact that I allowed that to continue. Before I walked in West Center City.
Allow what to continue?
The stereotyping of the area, right?
Of
I'm going to just paint this place. It's a shithole.
Right.
Because what they do is it's easier for them to I guess compartmentalize, instead of thinking there's human beings in there, there's children in there, there's families in there. It's easy for them just to sweep it away and just to say
act like it didn't even happen.
A bunch of animals, right?
Yeah.
And so for me to now hear those things, or if I write something on Facebook and they'll say, get a job or something for the, that hurts. It's painful, because I know people that they're my family, right? And so when you say get a job, I'm thinking of these wonderful human beings who have taught me more than any other group or community in my life. They taught me. There's a story of there's a couple in the 500 block of Monroe Street, and they lovely couple, beautiful little boy, and they would hold hands.
Mm-hmm.
And when was the last time you held hands with your wife?
88.
Yeah, mine was probably probably sooner. That was when I was still white.
Right.
So they would hold hands, and it struck me as so beautiful that I was transfixed the first time I saw it.
Right.
Here they are in they call it the horseshoe.
Right.
It's the worst intersection in the state. And then when I say worst, I mean just in terms of the blight, the visual, right?
Right.
And yet they would hold their hands in such a loving way, right? And there's trash on this, and they're everything's boarded up, and there's drug users, and yet they would just stand there holding hands. And so I had to say something because I felt weird, like just like looking at him. And I said, Al, I have to tell you, that's the most beautiful thing, watching you hold hands. I almost feel like I'm sort of interrupting, or
Right,
like
right.
or interfering. And he pulls her around, and he says, he's talking to me, but then he ends up talking to her very quickly, and he says, I love this woman. I love you. This woman has made me who I am. I mean, his words, of course, were much more beautiful than mine, and I was just struck with that pure beauty, that pure sort of that humanity that I think people are craving for, especially these days. You know,
Yeah.
just that. What's real anymore?
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
everything's just full of shit, and
Right.
everything's got an angle and an agenda. That everything I've probably the purest examples of compassion, of kindness, of love, of parenting. You know, where they might sell drugs during the day or when I'm not there, but you know what? I know their kids. I would see them put their kids on the bus. And I would see them talking to their parents.
It was like a whole human element that people totally just miss.
Look, and for me, and that's why with Facebook and with trying to even tell you the story about waving to people with the coffee, trying to get them in, because I'm thinking, you guys got to see this. This is really powerful. This is something that if the purest examples of who we are as a people, right, exist in the place that has the least, right, that is void of anything you'd think is void of hope.
Right.
It almost changed my whole way of thinking. And so I'm like,
Yeah.
so I started holding hands with my wife more. I mean, I think this is weird that we're holding hands now during the interview,
but it's something that you witness, that you now it's just powerful, just human behavior now being replicated just through something that you see.
Yeah, and plus, what I was saying, you have all of the things there, right? What West Center City and places like that throughout the country represent to me is who we are as a people.
Right.
That's our truest reflection.
Right.
Don't let anyone tell you it's anything different, because they just want to just pretend or make it easier for themselves not to accept it.
Right.
But the reality is, it's us in the morning before we put the makeup or the hair. It's the real version of who we are.
Right.
The drug use, the mental health issues, the domestic violence, all of that happens in our neighborhoods. We just have the luxury of shielding it with our yards, with our homes. I wrote once in a story, and I said the only difference between their neighborhood and ours is that we have bigger closets to hide our skeletons in, and that's the reality. They don't have anything to shield it, so there's a rawness to it.
Yeah.
And for me, that's what I thought was not only really powerful, but that's what really I think made us connect at that level, because it's real.
Yeah.
But the suffering was real. So for example, to see someone who has, we my family was in there, my wife was in there, we were helping a family out, and this family who had nothing, I mean nothing.
Yeah.
We gave them some. My wife made some meals for them, and before I even gave it, or my wife gave it to them, she goes, "We're going to share it with the other neighbors because they don't have much." So. In the same
that's
space,
what the people that you were there to bless.
Yeah.
That's what they said.
Yes, and for me, what I understood at that moment is that when you see somebody who has nothing, right, who you think you're trying to support, to give just a little bit to, and you see them give to people who have less than them, man, that is both powerful, incredibly meaningful and powerful, and painful at the same time.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh my God. The amount of suffering that it's almost like a product of living in neighborhoods like this is suffering.
Yeah.
And so they certainly get used to it, but they just that's a part of life.
That's just a part of it. That's a part of it that comes with it.
Yeah.
Take it or take it.
Yeah, but that's also why a part of me walking all the time.
Yeah, because you walk a lot. You walk
I never
a lot.
Drive.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of reasons. One is those streets to me are hallowed grounds.
Okay.
That community in of itself this is where it began. This is where we learned how to be humans again.
Okay.
In 1968, they stood up.
And that's a favorite.
At
Yeah,
Six
that's
in Madison.
okay. And that's
they
a number.
Said,
Yeah.
Yeah, and they said, "We exist." Right.
Now, who said? Tell the people who said that we
So
exist.
50 years ago.
Go ahead and give them a story.
So 50 years ago, in 1968, the riots, which were spreading through the country, reached Wilmington. But the people who stood first, those who said, we are willing to step forward, and we not only do we exist, we have a voice, and we have an inherent right to be here and to be heard. And they were killed because of it.
Yeah.
Not only were they the first to step forward, they were also the first to shed blood.
Yeah.
And the riots, the 1968 riots here in Delaware, started right there at 6 in Madison, which is in the heart of West Center City.
Yeah.
And so it's powerful, it's meaningful, because for me, walking those streets, I give it great reverence, great respect. It's almost like going to, if you went to like at the MLK Memorial or any memorial,
Right.
and people just driving through and throwing trash.
Right.
That's how I feel about it. It's a place that should be revered. It's a place where people
That's strong.
should go and say, this is where they taught us what equality means.
Right. Right. Right.
Right?
Right.
And they started it. And we actually had the longest occupation of National Guards, I think, in the country was in Wilmington. They stayed for
like 9 months, I think it was.
whatever it was. And so the fact that skip forward to when I started in June of 2017,
Right.
what I had to accept was this: the conditions hadn't changed.
They're the same conditions.
And,
Wow.
And how I didn't accept that I couldn't affect change, maybe, or help
Right.
or support it. I didn't know how.
Right.
But there's still bullet holes in the wall. So this is where this is the place where the greatest, it is the birthplace of courage.
Right.
And
right.
people are throwing shit out their windows.
Right.
The cops are driving by without engaging.
Yeah.
So to me, driving through that neighborhood without it is the most. I have a quick story.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew from day one, actually, from the first day I walked into the 400 block of Monroe Street, because that's where I just felt like I wanted to start. And it was a good place to start,
Right.
Because to me, it represented everything that this community was wrong,
Right.
the way I saw it,
Right.
with the blight and all that.
Now, did like were there other officers that saw it like you, or was it
Well,
how did you? I guess my question is, how did you get there? Like,
yeah. So the quick story. God, is there ever a quick story with me? My wife's like this. There is no quick story. Grab some more liquor. So the brief story is that we June of 2017. I was called into the office of the inspector, so
Okay.
one under the chief.
Right.
And she said, Dan, we'd like you to. Now, I'd been in patrol for 10 years.
Right.
I was a sergeant for 5 years, and I ran my own platoon for 5 or 6 years.
Nice.
And so maybe they felt bad for me, like, get this poor guy out of
Get him out of here. Right.
Yeah. So they said, hey, do you want to work this West Center City initiative? And I said, I have no idea what that is.
Right.
Wait, well, apparently a month earlier they had this big press thing, and they were doing some project in West Center City. I said, well, I don't know anything about it.
Right.
And at 20 years on, for me, if I'm going to dig into something and get into it, I got to make sure that it's genuine, right?
Right.
I'm not
right.
working for the long arm of the mayor or
Right.
EPG or whatever it is
Right.
who people are going to complain about.
Right.
I needed to know it. So I said, give me 24 hours.
Right.
So I talked to some friends and I said, is this legit? And then for the most part, it's the mayor's gig, and he wants to be able to. You can't have the most violent neighborhood butt up against the most important, the financial lifeblood of the state,
Right.
which is the business district. They don't mesh well.
Right.
So I went back the next day and I said, okay, I accept it. I said, so is there a framework? Like, what's my mission? What do you want me to do?
Yeah.
And so they said, she says to me something to the effect, we want you to reduce shootings and the prevalence of crime.
And the prevalence of crime.
Well, something stupid like that. What the fuck? Are you kidding me?
It sounds like
That's what I'm. Oh yeah. Oh no problem.
we
I'll
can
have
do
it
that
done
all-
by next Thursday.
Yeah.
The most violent, crime-ridden place. You want me? That's my framework is just to reduce shootings.
Now, how many people did you have underneath you?
At the time, none.
So they send a white guy,
A 20-year cop,
a 20-year cop,
lieutenant,
into
yeah,
the heart of Center City, right?
a white Jew.
A white Jew
Yeah.
in the heart of Center City, and say, "Hey, we're going to need you to reduce crime
And shootings.
and shootings
Yeah.
by yourself.
Rock it,
brother. Handle that.
Do you do you. Live your best life.
So okay, you go in by yourself, and you are armed with love.
So I'm armed with understanding human value.
Right.
I'm armed with understanding what that community meant to me.
Okay.
I went in knowing that I would never drive through because it was even disrespectful then. And the reality is, I was going to tell you a quick story, but the reality is when there would be police cars early on that would pass me and wouldn't even see me. Their windows would be closed. These are people I know. It's the summer. And there's something when it happens once or twice, it was hard for me. And I didn't give a shit about the rank thing.
Yeah.
But when it happened the third time, the fourth time, there's something dehumanizing about it. Because it's like you can't even look over at me and see me as a see me?
Right.
And what if I needed help? What if I needed you, right? Even if I was in or out, they didn't even see me in uniform, so they're fucking blind as a rat. I mean, you can't see this white cop in the middle of the 400 block of Monroe Street.
Right, and you don't even want to look at me.
They didn't even. So I didn't get angry for me, the person, or saying, "Hey, he's my friend."
Right.
They're the good people. I got angry because I felt how destructive it was. I felt how demeaning and dismissive it was of. You can't even look at me and see me. And a gentleman said early on, one of these, that moment happened, and I followed the cop by, and because I didn't really know how to digest it, right? And our eyes met, and he says, "Do you see? Do you see why we have no relationship?" And I felt it, man. It hurt. It hurt as a human, and so from that point on, I never, and if I had to drive out or in, right, of the community, I'd always have my windows all the way down, drive very slow, never have my sunglasses on, and I would always try to, you'd see me, I always get yelled at because I take my hat off, but for me it was a sign of respect. I never talk to someone with sunglasses or chewing gum or with my hat on because it was my way of respecting it. And all of those things combined, people were like, well, how are you able to do it? Because they really should hate you. I would understand if they, not me, the man, what I represented. And I said, that's the story. The story is how powerful understanding human value is, and also not being so fucking judgmental. Cops have a really wonderful way of judging people. Whether it's through their disposition in terms of how they're staring or actually talking, like they talk down to.
Yeah.
But look, you hate to be judged. God knows I hate to be judged. Well, if you feel like, if you do have shame, if you feel like, hey, I don't want to be living like this, I want to be better.
Right.
And then you have some dickhead trying to, making you feel worse about yourself. Yeah. Why do you think that there's such this friction between the community? Number one, get your ass out the fucking car, right? Because that to me is ignorant in of itself. Second, and don't let them ever tell you that we got to go to complaints and calls for service. Right. Yes, they can go to service, but I have always had my car around. Right. If I needed it, you jump into it. Right. That's bullshit.
Especially in the black community. When you're in the black community, it means so much to have that police officer outside the car in the community.
Yeah, and you know we are the only access to any help. Who else goes in that neighborhood or neighborhoods like that? You know, I mean, people don't, from the government or people who can support them, they don't walk through the neighborhood. So what we represent is more than just police. Right. Right? We represent the one thing that could help them. Right. And here, what a horrible missed opportunity. And another part that I felt like I wish I could have done earlier in my career, I just didn't understand. I wasn't mature enough yet. But people see protect and serve in such this, and cops see it. They see their position as, well, we're going to protect and serve you. If you're a victim or a suspect or a witness in a crime, we'll protect and serve you if you call 911, we'll do heroic things to save you, right?
Right.
But for me, there's no fine print under that. For me, protect and serve. When I swore an oath and said, "Look, I want to help the people that I can help," right?
Right. Right.
That didn't have boundaries to it.
Right.
Help to me means I should also protect you from cold and from hunger and from joblessness
Right,
and from homelessness.
right.
And if I can't do those things right there and then,
Right.
I sure as shit should know where to take you for help.
Exactly.
And the fact that I
Exactly.
didn't even know how to help people in that way until I came to West Center City, when the first woman who, it was probably day 2, who she just needed help,
Right.
And I didn't know how to give her the kind of help she needed, right?
Right.
The support, the social, the human support.
The human support.
Not the time and the human connection as much as the
Right.
she needs to go to like rehab. She needs like to go to social services. I didn't even know what Porter Center was. 20 fucking years. I didn't understand that the Porter Center, what that did, what that represented. I didn't understand, what in other communities, these critical places that people go when they're in crisis, right? And the best part about it wasn't just the community. It was the people that I asked for help. So people from like John Cook from the Porter State Service Center, they could have dismissed me. A lot of people could have dismissed me. They could have said, "Oh, he's probably got other agendas," but they allowed me to be a part of the process and to learn, and they taught me and they mentored me. So I learned about the process, and then I learned how fucked up it is too, in terms of, well, okay, you have all of this help here, right? You have thousands of state employees. Where the fuck is everybody? I'm in the worst 36 and a half square blocks. By worst, I mean the most suffering in the state, right? And by anyone's standards, any metrics, happens right there in West Center City.
Right.
Where is everybody? Where is the help?
Right.
And so for the year and a half that I spent there, I pulled everyone in there that I could, the ones who I knew would add value.
Right.
Not the ones who wanted to shake hands and kiss babies and just make it their own thing.
Photo ops, yeah.
I did have 1 or 2 of them. I quickly escort them out,
Right.
because I never wanted to bring anyone in the community that took away, right?
Right.
The fuck are you going to take away more from a community that doesn't have nothing, right? And so, till the day I left, I just kept fighting for stuff. And one of the things, that I recognize is that no one comes out of their goddamn offices. So all of these people who have expertise in jobs and they can help people with everything from health to their homes to their children, they somehow think that they're just going to, people from 6th and Jefferson or 5th and Monroe are just going to be able to travel to them off of in Dover or Route 13.
Yeah.
I didn't even know who they were. And so I recognized not only how the suffering, I recognized, and not only the beauty, the amazing friendships, the power, the history of this place, right? I also recognized the huge void, the lack of what you think is in there, which is like, oh, well, the houses, you don't know the half of it. What's missing there isn't in the people, isn't in their flaws, isn't in the the trash on the street. The problem is, it's us. Is the people who live outside it, who don't recognize how incredibly beautiful this place is and how we should take care of it, because that place, it exists. The people who stood up in '68 and said we exist, they were so far ahead of their time that 50 years later, the outside world still couldn't figure it the fuck out.
Right.
And the fact that when people would come in, and there were so many lessons I learned. The most wonderful part of it is, so people, I didn't know how to help, right? I'm just there.
You're there. You saw people that needed help, and you go out to help, and you're like, wait a minute, there's no one helping these people.
It was despicable. And then you recognize why poverty. And this isn't like a theme that I throw out to make the suffering worse, but you have to recognize poverty is nearly inescapable.
Yeah.
The fact that, you know, once a year, maybe every other year, there's a national news story about the kid that makes it out of the ghetto, right?
Mm-hmm.
People are like, they flock to, oh, that's so wonderful. Look, he's a doctor now. That should be a fucking national disgrace. Because you're saying one kid out of fucking the whole country
right.
in every other year makes it out of the goddamn ghetto?
Yeah.
That's what West Center City taught me, is that you have to, they taught me how to see. They see clearly.
Right.
And it wasn't that I was looking away. I just didn't see clearly.
You just didn't see clearly.
Because when you recognize that, those stories of the kid that makes it out of the ghetto should be a call for action, not of, oh, this is wonderful. He's, you know, look at are you crazy? So the rest of the fucking country is suffering now.
Right.
But yes, the you know, NBC got a great story because the kid made it out.
Yeah.
So it allowed me to really open my eyes, and what I feel, so not only the respect and the dignity for me, I made a pledge. I told them that I had their back. Mm-hmm. When I tell people I have your back, and when I told